as Iran and Israel allegedly disregard Donald Trump's ceasefire, and Russia and Ukraine bleed each other, the NATO is meeting. In the backdrop, Khamenei and Putin loom large. The three-day summit in The Hague, Netherlands, is at the center of complex geopolitical shifts. There is no peace in sight, whether it is Middle East or the war in Europe. Even as NATO members, led by Germany, raise their defense spending, Donald Trump is expected to pressurize them further. The idea is to make NATO nations defense independent and not wait for U.S. aid if the Russian bear begins his march. Remember, this comes days after Donald Trump walked out of the G7 summit in Canada without meeting Zelensky. The Ukrainian president would likely be anxious to meet the U.S. president with the hopes of getting another lifeline. Other NATO nations like France, Germany and UK continue to back Ukraine as the last line of defense against Russian aggression. Donald Trump's announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran hinted at a potential end to the conflict, but the positivity was short-lived. On the other hand, NATO's stance on Ukraine membership is a key topic of discussion at NATO summit. The European leaders are expected to maintain a strong commitment to Ukraine's defense, despite the current mixed feelings from U.S. towards providing support. Hours before the North Atlantic Treaty Organization summit convened, the Russian president had a big pledge. Putin minced no words in highlighting the alleged security threat presented by the NATO on its borders.
НАТО планируется объявить о начале масштабной программы по дальнейшему наращиванию возможностей Альянса. Для ее реализации будут увеличены военные бюджеты стран НАТО. Между тем, участники блока уже сейчас тратят на военные цели больше всех государств мира вместе взятых. Из этого ясно, кто на самом деле это провоцирует глобальную милитаризацию и гонку вооружений.
The crisis in Ukraine persists, and there seems to be no quick fix. Let's take a look at the demands of both sides. Ukraine refused to cede any land and wants robust security guarantees against future Russian aggression. The year before, Kyiv's membership path was fast-tracked after a new NATO-Ukraine Council was set up and President Zelensky received a hero's welcome by the West. Ukraine has accused Russia of sabotaging efforts to agree on a peace deal, pushed by U.S. President Donald Trump, in order to prolong its full-scale offensive on the country and to seize more territory. On the other hand, Russian President Vladimir Putin, in his speech in Moscow, accused NATO of provoking global militarization and the arms race. In 2024, Putin had demanded that Ukraine cede 4 regions, which it still does not fully control. The Russian president wants Ukraine to also renounce its NATO bid. The war in Europe and the Israel-Iran war will put NATO unity to the test. Even as key stakeholders like the USA, UK, France and Germany look to secure their own interests, Russia will likely provoke the Western Bloc.